My name is Maristela Fernandez. I am 72 years old and I live in Bonfim do Sul, a village so small that it doesn't even appear accurately on maps. Just imagine me, a lady with white hair and thick hands, calloused from hard work in the fields, who has become the center of attention in the peaceful town of Bonfim do Sul. I have never caused a stir, always discreet, minding my own business, until that fateful day in October. A clear sky, as blue as freshly washed clothes, announced a serene afternoon when I received the almost unimaginable news. At 61 years old, I was pregnant. Dr. Adamar, over his thick bottle glasses, announced in a trembling voice, "Mrs. Maristela, you are expecting a baby." My heart raced and my legs went soft like porridge. Had the doctor grown old, or had the world lost its mind? How could a woman my age conceive? I thought everything inside me was dead, but then life was reborn. At the age of 61, in a man 30 years younger, in a city where walls listen and windows peek, scandal was inevitable. Tongues loosened faster than soap in hot water. "That old woman is crazy," some said. "It's a trick to trap a young man," others commented. There were those who said it was divine punishment. Punishment for what? For allowing me to feel love again? Sandro, the child's father, worked in home repairs. He arrived in the city with a backpack on his back and a radiant smile. When he knocked on my door, offering his services to fix the roof, I never imagined that he would repair something deeper. My heart broken by loneliness. My daughters, who lived far away and rarely visited me, appeared on the scene to reprimand me. Solange, the oldest, cried so much that it seemed like she was flooding the room. Patricia, the youngest, accused me of being reckless, bringing shame to the family, as if love and new life were a reason to be ashamed. But the worst part was the stares on the street. Women who used to visit my house stopped coming to visit. In church, the bench where I sat was deserted. It was as if I was carrying a contagious disease, except that it wasn't a disease but rather life growing in my womb. In the early days, I cried in secret in the bathroom, asking God for strength and discernment. Amidst the confusion, one certainty invaded me. That child was a gift, not a punishment, and I would love and protect her with all my strength, regardless of what anyone thought. And that was how Maristela Fernandez became the talk of Bonfim do Sul, the crazy old woman who got pregnant at 61. But that was just the beginning of a story that would change not only my life, but the lives of many people in that city. Because God writes straight in lines we can't even imagine. My daughter, what began as shame became the greatest miracle of this city. Bonfim do Sul is so small that a sneeze on the way in echoes on the way out. A place where everyone knows the name of the neighbor's dog, even the brand of Sue Joachim's medicine for high blood pressure. A welcoming place with a small central square where the ladies gather to gossip, and the gentlemen to play dominoes under a century-old mango tree, planted, they say, by the first inhabitant. I was born and raised here, married Tonino, may God rest his soul, and became a widow 15 years ago. He was a good, hard-working man, but very quiet. He died suddenly of a heart attack while fixing the fence. Since then, I've lived alone in that big house with blue windows and a wooden gate, with my chickens, plants, and memories. My daughters, Solange and Patricia, left for Sao Paulo a long time ago. They called from time to time, sent Christmas and Easter presents. Solange, a dentist married to an engineer, had 2 children who barely knew me. Patricia worked with computers, something I didn't understand very well. She said she didn't want children, the world was too difficult. They were both in a rush, too busy to visit me. I got used to being alone. I had my friends from church, the sewing group at Dona Lourdes' house on Wednesdays, and my vegetable garden, which I tended with care. Every now and then I would go visit my friend Zefa, have coffee and hear the news from the city, which was almost always the same. Who got married? Who got separated? Who was in debt at Seu Geraldo's market? It was on a cloudy Monday in September that my life changed. It had rained heavily the night before and my old roof started to leak in 3 spots. The water fell into the pots I had placed on the floor, an irritating sound that kept me from sleeping. I decided to go to the weekly market to look for someone to fix it. That was where I saw him for the first time, Sandro, tall, dark, tanned, with strong arms and a shy smile that was slowly emerging. He was carrying a ladder and a toolbox with a simple sign. "I do all kinds of work, bricklaying, plumbing, electrician." He wasn't from around here, I could tell by his accent. "Good morning, ma'am. Do you need any work?" he asked. I, who never talked much to strangers, told him about my roof, The leaks, the difficulty of finding someone competent at a fair price. Sandro listened to me attentively, his brown eyes fixed on me, as if every word was valuable. It wasn't a look of pity like many gave to elderly widows, but of respect. He was 34 years old from Lavras, 200 kilometers away. He said he had lost his job in construction and was traveling, doing odd jobs to survive. "Don't worry, ma'am. I'll fix that roof properly, guaranteed work," he said. And for some reason, I believed him. We made an appointment for the next day. I offered to pay half in advance, but he refused. That night, I didn't sleep well. The house seemed less empty, knowing that someone would come the next day. I tidied up the back room in case he needed to stay for a few days. I made a creamy cornmeal cake and made the best coffee. Sandro arrived promptly at 7 in the morning. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen when he knocked on the gate. I saw him through the window tidying up the ladder, organizing his tools carefully. His hands were large and calloused, but they handled the tools like delicate instruments, hands that respected the work. I prepared a simple but delicious breakfast: homemade bread, cornmeal cake, Minas cheese that my friend Zepha had given me, and guava jam that I made myself. I invited him to eat before we started. He hesitated, said he didn't need it, but ended up accepting. He ate it with gusto, praising everything. "Dona Maristela, this is the best coffee I've had in months," he said. While he worked on the roof, I did my things at home. But I always found a reason to go out into the yard and watch the progress of the work. Every time I showed up, he was focused, sweaty, but always with a smile. At the end of the day, when he came down from the ladder, his face dirty with cement and his hair disheveled, I knew something had changed in me. "I'll need 2 more days, Mrs. Maristela. There's more damage than we thought." I offered him the back room. He accepted, grateful, and so it all began. A man fixing my roof, unaware that he was also fixing a heart that I thought had stopped beating. Sandro finished the roof on the 3rd day, but he made up a story about needing to check the rafters and then check the gutters. I knew he made excuses to stay, and deep down I wanted that. The house was happier with him around. It was good to hear footsteps other than my own, to have someone to talk to during meals. We started with small talk. I complimented him on the strong coffee he made. He said that people who work with cement have sensitive hands. We told stories, as if we had known each other for years. He told me about his difficult childhood, about his father who abandoned him early, about how he learned to work in construction when he was still a boy, about his dream of having his own house, of having a family, something he never achieved because he lived on the road. I told him about Toninho, about being a widow, my daughters. I showed him old photos in the leather album, the embroidery I did on sleepless nights, the vegetable garden, my pride. When I spoke, Sandro looked me in the eyes, paying attention. It was not the look of someone waiting for their turn to speak, but of someone who was present, listening to every word. A week after he arrived, we were on the porch, drinking chamomile tea, when he held my hand, a simple gesture that made my heart race as if I were a little girl again. His hand, warm and rough, held mine with a care that made me cry. "Dona Maristela," he said in a low voice, "you are the most special woman I have ever met." That was the beginning, an unexpected beginning, but one that seemed as certain as the sunrise. Soon he moved into the back room, but he spent more time in the big house with me. We watched television and tended the vegetable garden. He taught me how to make rice with golden garlic, and I taught him how to make pumpkin and coconut jam. But we didn't realize that the eyes of the city were on us. All it took was for the people to see Sandro leaving my gate twice a week for the tongues of Bonfim do Sul to become like snakes ready to strike. At first there were whispers, then explicit gossip. "Maristela wants to raise a grandson by force," I heard Dona Odette say in So Juvenal's butcher shop, laughing loudly. How embarrassing, a woman her age with a boy like that. When I walked in, everyone went quiet as if I hadn't heard anything. At the corner store, Teresa, my school friend, grabbed my arm. "Maristela, this guy just wants your money. Keep your eyes open." I replied that I had no money, just my small pension and the house that Toninho left behind. She shook her head, as if I were a stubborn child. At the church where I had been going every Sunday for over 40 years, the bench next to me was empty. The ladies from the prayer group stopped inviting me. The worst part was Father Anselmo's sermon on behavior that was inappropriate for my age, looking directly at me. It didn't take long for the news to reach São Paulo. My daughters, who barely remembered my birthday, showed up one Friday afternoon, with the expression of someone who had come to solve a serious problem. Solange came in speaking loudly, wanting to know where the opportunist was. Patricia, calmer but with eyes full of disapproval, sat down with me. "Mom, what are you doing? The whole town is talking about it. It's an embarrassment for the family." Solange was rummaging through my things as if she were looking for evidence of some crime. "This man is going to take everything you have." Patricia cried. "Mom, we're worried. You're old. This guy is too young. What does he want with a 61-year-old woman? It doesn't make sense." I let them talk. When they finished, I calmly said, "You abandoned me for years, and now you want to decide how I should live my life? You worry so much that you don't even care if I'm alive or dead, but when I find someone who makes me happy, you show up to lecture me." They were speechless. Solange threatened to call a lawyer, saying that I wasn't in a position to make decisions. Patricia just cried. When Sandro came home from work and saw that scene, he almost turned his back, but I called him in. "This is Sandro. He stays in my house because I want him to, because he respects me and treats me well, something that many people out there don't do." My daughters spent the weekend trying to convince me to send Sandro away, but they didn't see what I saw. How he woke up early and made me coffee, sat with me on the porch and held my hand, laughed at my old stories, looked at me with admiration, not pity, washed the dishes without me asking, truly listened to me, my fears, my joys, my memories. On Monday, when they left, promising to return with the lawyer, I sat with Sandro on the porch and asked if he wanted to leave to avoid problems. He looked at me. "Mrs. Maristela, I'll only leave if you tell me to, because for me, what we have is worth more than any gossip." And there, on that porch, under the curious gaze of my neighbor Nusa, who pretended to hang out the laundry to peek, Sandro kissed me for the first time. A sweet, affectionate kiss that made me feel as if the world had disappeared. A kiss that made me realize that I was still alive, very much alive, and had the right to feel, love, and be loved. What no one in that city understood was that, between four walls, Sandro and I were just two people who found company when they no longer expected it, two souls who recognized each other despite the age difference, the sideways glances, the sermons, and that, my daughter, no one had the right to judge. 3 months after Sandro moved into my house, I started to feel different. At first, I thought it was fatigue. I took better care of the house, cooked delicious meals every day, and started to take care of the garden more carefully. It was normal to get tired, after all. I was no longer a girl. But then a persistent nausea set in. As soon as I set foot on the floor, I was already running to the bathroom. The smell of coffee, which I had always loved, started to make me nauseous. Even the scent of the roses that Sandro had planted, so pleasant, started to make me nauseous. "It must be some virus," I said to Sandro, who looked at me worriedly, while I turned white as a sheet every time I tried to eat something. He made lemon balm tea and bought ginger, but nothing helped. It was Zepha, my longtime friend, who said something I didn't even dare think. "Maristela, have you ever thought that you might be pregnant?" She said it quietly while we were peeling potatoes. I laughed so hard I almost fell off my chair. "Zepha, for the love of God, I'm 61 years old and I haven't had a regular period in over 10 years. But my cousin Jerema had a baby when she was 54. The doctor said it was because she thought she couldn't take it anymore and stopped taking care of herself." Zepha continued peeling potatoes, as if she were talking about the most normal thing in the world. The idea kept going through my head. Sandro and I, didn't we take precautions? Why, at my age, I thought it was no longer a concern. Not even Tonino, may God rest his soul, had gotten me pregnant in the last few years of our marriage. But the symptoms were getting worse. An abnormal heat even in that hot summer in Bonfim do Sul. A tiredness that gripped my legs, as if I had walked for miles. And those aching breasts, sensitive even to the touch of bath water. I began to remember when I got pregnant with Solange and Patricia, more than 30 years ago. A week later, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know. I took a bus to the San Francisco Health Center, at the entrance to the city. I preferred to go there instead of the little health center in the neighborhood, because everyone there knew me, and I didn't want to feed any more gossip. Donna Rita had been the head nurse for 20 years. I knew her from Sunday Mass, but we weren't close. As I entered her little office, she adjusted her glasses and smiled. "Donna Maristela, what brings you here today?" I swallowed hard and asked for a pregnancy test. She looked at me over her glasses and chuckled. "A beta HCG? What for, Maristela?" "It must be the beginning of labyrinthitis or high blood pressure. Let's measure your blood pressure first," he said, as if he were explaining something to a stubborn child. "Rita, please. I just want to take the test. It's my right," he said firmly, looking her in the eyes. She sighed, made a face like she was going to deal with a crazy person, and filled out the form. "You'll have to go to the lab downtown. The results will be out in 3 days." Those 3 days seemed like 3 years. I didn't tell Sandro or Zepha anything. I didn't want to cause a fuss or feed their hopes or fears. I went back to the clinic on the appointed day, my legs shaking with nervousness. Donna Rita saw me in the waiting room and called me aside. I noticed that she was different. The mocking smile had disappeared. She looked at me with wide eyes as if she had seen a ghost. "Maristela, are you pregnant?" My heart skipped a beat so hard I thought it would come out of my mouth. "Are you sure, Rita? It can't be a lab error. The result is clear." She showed me the paper with numbers and letters that I didn't understand, but it said, "Positive," in large letters. I left there in shock. The sun in Bonfim do Sul seemed stronger that day, almost blinding me. I sat down on a bench in the square and started to cry, not knowing if it was from joy, fear, or pure astonishment. I, Maristela Fernandez, pregnant again, at 61 years old. The following week, Rita sent me for an ultrasound exam at Dr. Adamar's private clinic. I paid with the money I had kept under my mattress so I wouldn't have to wait in line at the SUS. I wanted to be absolutely sure. Dr. Adamar was a white-haired man with a fatherly manner. When he applied the gel to my belly and started to slide the device, I was shaking so much that he had to ask me to take several deep breaths. "Mrs. Maristela," he said, turning the screen toward me. "Here's your baby. Judging by its size, you must be about 10 weeks along." On the screen, a pulsating dot, a tiny heartbeat, a life growing inside me. I did 2 more blood tests at different labs, and they all confirmed it. There was no denying it. It was real. When I got home, Sandro was in the backyard fixing the fence. He smiled when he saw me, but soon realized that something was different. "Did something happen, Maristela? You look pale." I sat on the stool in the backyard and made him sit next to me. I opened my bag and took out the envelope with the results. "Sandro, I found out what I have. That's why I'm feeling sick." He took my hand, worried. "Is it something serious?" "It depends on how you look at it," I replied, handing him the paper. Sandro stared at that paper for an eternity, without saying anything, focused on the result. Suddenly, I saw a tear run down his face, then another. He prostrated himself at my feet on the dirt of the yard, his arms around my waist, his face pressed against my belly. "My son," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "My son." I had never seen a man cry like that without shame, without hiding it. His tears flowed, hugging my still flat belly, as if he could already feel the life growing inside. After a while, he raised his wet face, his eyes radiating an overflowing joy. "Aren't you angry?" she asked. "Or scared?" My own tears were streaming down my face. I felt fear. Yes, Maristela, an immense fear. It was the greatest divine gift, our child, but I was overcome by terror. What would they say, the gossip, the slander that was already circulating and that would now become a hurricane? Fear of my age, of my tired body that would welcome a new life, of the future, of how to raise a child at this stage of life. But when I saw Sandro kneeling, kissing my belly, promising to be the best father in the world, a warmth warmed me inside. Life, which I believed had given me everything, was putting me back on this unexpected path, the path of motherhood at 61 years old, in a small town where everyone knows and judges each other. That night, lying together in the bed that had previously been mine alone, Sandro caressed my face. "Maristela, the whole town can say whatever it wants, but this child will be born full of love, and that is all that matters." And I tried to believe, listening to the night crickets, feeling her body close to mine, that love would be enough to face what was to come. The news of the pregnancy spread through Bonfim do Sul as quickly as a fire in a dry field. I don't know how they found out. Maybe Rita from the post office told them, or some neighbor saw the test results when Sandro hugged me in the backyard. It doesn't matter. One day I got used to the idea, the next the whole city knew. The whisper turned into a blatant insult. Before, at least, they pretended not to see me. Now, not even that. They ignored me on the streets, turned their faces away, crossed to the opposite side of the sidewalk as if I carried some contagious disease. I remember the line at the grocery store, Donna Marlene, a regular at the same church for over 30 years, looked me up and down and said loudly, so that everyone could hear, "There are people who have no shame." At the age of being a grandmother, wanting to act like a young girl, I stood paralyzed, my shopping in hand, a lump in my throat. Nusa, my neighbor, spat on the floor when I passed as if I were filthy. The same Nusa who had coffee at my table, who cried on my shoulder when her husband got sick. The worst was at church. I was always devout. I never missed a mass. I helped at the fairs. I knew everyone by name. When I walked in, 4 months pregnant, with a little belly already visible, I heard the murmuring, the looks of contempt, the giggles. Father Anselmo, who had just arrived, barely greeted me. In his homily, he spoke about modern times and the aberrations that society accepts, about the disrespect for nature, about the right age to be a mother. He didn't mention my name, but everyone knew it was about me. I left before communion, with shaky legs and a bleeding heart. My friends, those who I thought were true, but they disappeared. The phone went silent. The visits stopped. Zifa, my friend, was the only one who stayed, even with initial hesitation. "Maristela, are you sure you want to go through all this at our age?" At least she asked. She didn't judge. The situation got worse. A mother from the school where I taught tutoring complained to the principal. She didn't want her son in the same class as Maristela's son, as if my unborn baby could contaminate the other children. The principal, always kind, called me, embarrassed. "Mrs. Maristela, maybe it would be better if you took a leave of absence until this situation, normalizes." I lost the job I loved so much, helping children with numbers. My belly grew along with the rejection of the city. The more the baby revealed itself, the more people distanced themselves. I, part of that community, became a stranger overnight. I remember going to the pharmacy to buy vitamins. The pharmacist, Mr. Tiburtio, attended to me with an expression of disgust. "You should be ashamed," he murmured. I went home crying. I could barely see the way. I arrived and collapsed on the kitchen chair, sobbing like a child, a deep cry of someone who has lost a place that was always theirs. I felt a hand on my back. Sandro had arrived home early from work and had heard me. He knelt down, held my hands, remained silent, waiting for my relief. When I finally spoke, I told him everything. The pharmacy, the school, the church, the insults, the turned away. "Do you want to leave here?" he asked, worried. "We could move, start over, somewhere else, where no one would know us." I thought about my house, the house that Tonino and I built, the yard where my daughters played, the trees I planted, the life I built there. "No," I answered. "This is my house, my land. I'm not going to run away because of evil tongues." I saw Sandro smile, a proud smile. "Then let's stay and show this city that this baby is the greatest blessing that God has given us." Could command. From that day on, Sandro worked even harder, in 3 different houses, leaving before dawn and returning at night. His hands became more calloused, his face more sunburned, but he didn't complain. He saved every penny. One day he arrived with planks and tools. "I'm going to build our son's room," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. On the weekends he sawed, hammered, built with his own hands. He transformed that little room, which had previously been a junkyard, into a special place, painted the walls light blue, made a new window to the backyard, built a wooden crib, a masterful job. He remodeled the backyard, planted more trees, fixed the fence, built a swing from the mango tree. "For when he grows up," he said, his eyes shining. Every night before going to sleep, Sandro would stroke my already large belly, talk softly to the baby, tell stories, make promises. "I'm going to teach you how to fish, how to play ball, how to fix things. I'm going to teach you how to be the best father in the world for you." Then he would kiss my belly. "Thank you, my God, for this miracle." It was beautiful to see that strong man be so gentle and loving. During my appointments in Divinopolis, in Bonfim do Sul, I no longer had the courage. Sandro would take time off to be with me, ask the doctor everything, write down the recommendations, hold my hand during the exams. It seemed like the world was turning its back on us, but God and Sandro held my hand so I wouldn't fall. In the moments when I almost gave up, under the weight of the looks and words, it was Sandro who gave me strength. "These people will see," he would say with impressive conviction. "When our son is born, they will see that it was God who sent him, and they will have to swallow everything they said." And so, between external insults and internal love, I continued my high-risk pregnancy at the age of 61, in a city that judged, but did not understand miracles. My pregnancy was not easy. A 61-year-old woman is not made to carry a baby. At least that's what the doctors say. Doctors, but my son and I proved the opposite at every appointment. The doctor from Divinopolis always shook his head in admiration when he saw the exams. "You have a strong body, Mrs. Maristela, and so does this baby." I entered the 7th month with a belly that seemed to explode, my feet swollen, my back hurting, but I was happy. Every kick, every move the baby made was as if God were saying, "Everything is fine, Maristela. Trust me." Sandro wouldn't let me do almost anything. Cleaning the house, cooking, just sitting down. He even made excuses to hang out the clothes in my place. "You need to rest, Maris. Think about the baby." And I let him. It was good to feel that care. Zepha came almost every day, brought soup, sweets, stayed to chat, got used to the idea of my pregnancy and started knitting little clothes. "If it's a boy, blue. If it's a girl, blue. If it's a girl, yellow," she would say, because she never really liked pink. One night, almost 8 months in, I dreamed of Tonino, my late husband, sitting on the porch in his rocking chair, smiling at me. "Take good care of the boy, Maristela. He's special." I woke up with a warm heart, as if I had received a blessing. But the next morning, the greatest trial of my life began. It was a cold July night. The wind was blowing against the window. I asked Sandro to put another blanket on me. I was sleeping deeply, as only a tired pregnant woman can sleep, when I woke up with such intense pain that I couldn't scream. It was as if a knife was ripping through my belly. I put my hand on the sheet and felt something wet. When I pulled it away, it was covered in blood, a lot of blood. "Sandro," I managed to call out in a weak voice. He woke up right away, as if he had been waiting. When he saw the blood, his face went white. "My God, Maristela, the baby." He jumped out of bed, put on the first clothes he could find, picked me up. He didn't even wait to put on his shoes. He came out barefoot in his pajamas with me in his arms and put me in the back seat of his old car. "Hang in there, love, hang in there," he repeated, driving like a madman along the dark road that connects Bonfim do Sul to Divinopolis. The pain came in waves, each one worse than the last. I could feel the blood running down, my vision blurred, as if a mist had settled over my eyes. I felt intensely cold. "Sandro, if something happens to me," I started to say. "Don't even mention it," he interrupted, looking in the rearview mirror, his eyes full of terror. "Nothing will happen, you two will be fine." But I knew something was very wrong. My body, which had already gone through 2 pregnancies decades ago, was sending me undeniable signals. The baby was quiet, no longer moving, and the blood, so much blood. The drive to Divinopolis took an hour. Sandro made it in 35 minutes, screeching tires in the emergency room of Santa Clara Hospital, honking like a madman. The security guards, they ran, thinking it was some drunk. But when they saw the situation, they called the nurses. They put me on a stretcher and ran with me through the corridors. Sandro followed, barefoot with dirty feet, his pajamas stained with blood, shouting for them to save his son. I remember Dr. Mauricio, the doctor on duty, a young man examining my belly with equipment, asking rapid questions that I could barely answer. "Placental abruption," I heard him say. "We need to operate now." They took me to the operating room. The world seemed to spin. The bright lights hurt my eyes. The blood wouldn't stop. My blood pressure dropped. Dr. Mauricio approached, his young face serious and concerned. "Ms. Maristela, the situation is critical. The placenta has completely detached. You are losing a lot of blood. The baby is suffering. The heartbeat is weak." He paused, swallowed hard. "Given your age and condition, we have a difficult choice. Save the baby or you. The chances of saving both of them are slim." The world stopped. A choice no mother should have to make. An impossible choice. I saw Sandro on the other side of the room, being held by 2 nurses, crying like a child, screaming my name. Our son was only 6 months old, so small, so fragile, but so loved. "Save him, doctor," I said with a stronger voice than I expected. "Save my son. He deserves to be born. I've lived long enough." The doctor tried to argue. "Ms. Maristela, are you sure?" "My son," I repeated, tears streaming down my face. "Save my son, it's the only thing that matters now." I saw Dr. Mauricio wave to the team. The nurse prepare something in a syringe. I felt the needle in my arm, the cold of the anesthesia spreading. I began to feel drowsy. My last thoughts were of Sandro and the baby, of Tonino and the dream. Take good care of the boy, Maristela, he's special. I tried, Tonino, I thought as darkness enveloped me. Now he is your son too. Take care of him from up there. I closed my eyes thinking that this was the end for me, that I would never see the sun rise again. Smell the coffee, hear the birds sing, see my son's little face, feel his warmth in my arms. I accepted death. I gave my life for his. I felt an immense peace, as if thousands of angels were carrying me away from that cold room, from the pain, the blood, the fear. My son will live, was my last thought, and I smiled inside, knowing that I had made the right choice, the only one possible for a mother. Then came nothingness, complete, profound, without dreams, without sensations, as if I had plunged into a dark and silent ocean where not even God could reach me, or at least that's what I thought. But God had other plans, plans that neither the most experienced doctor nor the most skeptical person could explain, because what happened next can only be called one thing, a miracle. I don't know how long I stayed in that darkness. It could have been a minute or 1,000 years. I had no idea, nothing, just that deep silence, that immense peace. I felt no pain, no fear, nothing. It was as if I had turned into smoke, without a body, without weight. But then suddenly, a light appeared. Not just any light, it was so strong, so pure, that it seemed to wash the soul. In the middle of that light I saw Tonino, there, smiling, younger, without the wrinkles of worry. He extended his hand, as if calling me. Tonino, I called, but no sound came out. It was as if we were talking without words. Not yet, Maristela, he said with that calm smile. It's not your time yet. You have to go back. There are people waiting for you. I felt a force pulling me as if someone had tied me up and was dragging me. The light grew dimmer, Tonino disappeared. I felt an enormous weight, as if someone had placed a stone on my chest. Suddenly I opened my eyes. Everything was white, the ceiling, the walls. I thought I was dreaming. The light was so strong it hurt my eyes. I blinked a few times until I could focus. I realized I was in a hospital room. I turned my head slowly, feeling a sharp pain in my neck. I saw Sandro sitting in a chair, unshaven with deep circles under his eyes and disheveled hair. He looked like he had aged 10 years in one night, but what caught my attention the most was what he had in his arms, a small blue package, which he held as if it were made of glass. I tried to speak. My throat was dry. I could only make a strange sound, a moan, but it was enough. Sandro raised his head. When he saw me with my eyes open, the world stopped. Maris, he called softly as if he feared I was imagining it. Maris, are you awake? I managed to shake my head slightly. His face changed. I had never seen anyone cry like that. It wasn't tears of sadness, but of such great relief that it seemed like he was exploding. Tears ran down his face, wetting even his beard. He's alive, Maris, Sandro said, approaching with the blue package. He's alive, our son. He tilted the bundle toward me, and for the first time I saw my son's little face. So small, so fragile, his skin red and wrinkled, his eyes closed, his mouth the size of a grape, with a few strands of black hair on his head. He was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The doctor said he's very strong, Sandro continued, his voice breaking. He cried as soon as he was born, even though he was premature. He has the lungs of a warrior. I tried to speak again, and this time I whispered, I'm alive too. Sandro knelt beside the bed, the baby in one arm, holding my hand with the other. The doctor said it was a miracle, Maris. You lost so much blood that they thought you wouldn't make it. They had to give you a transfusion. Your heart almost stopped twice during the surgery. At that moment, Dr. Maurizio came in. Upon seeing me awake, he stopped at the door, astonished, and checked his watch, as if he couldn't believe it. Mrs. Maristela, he said, coming closer. You shouldn't be conscious yet. The medication is too strong. Doctor, Sandro said with pride in his strong voice. Like our boy. The doctor examined my eyes with a small light, checked my pulse, and shook his head in amazement. I've never seen anything like this in my entire career, he confessed. You were in critical condition less than 24 hours ago. We had to remove your uterus to stop the bleeding, but even so your chances were minimal. And now look at you. It was God. Doctor, I managed to whisper. I saw a light. Dr. Mauricio smiled, neither confirming nor denying. He was too young, probably educated in the hard science that does not believe in miracles, but I knew what I had seen. I knew that I had been on the other side and had been sent back. As for your son, the doctor continued. He is also an exceptional case. For a premature baby of 32 weeks born under such adverse conditions, he is showing surprising vitality. He didn't even need respiratory support, something exceptional for such premature babies. The doctor adjusted the infusion in my arm and announced that he would return later for further tests. Before leaving, he hesitated at the door, his eyes resting on the three of us, me in bed, Sandro kneeling beside me, our son in his arms. I'm not a religious man, he confessed, but if anything in my life resembles a miracle, it's what happened in this room in the last 24 hours. As he left, Sandro placed our newborn on my chest with the utmost delicacy, so light, so small, but I felt the unshakable strength of his little heart beating strongly against mine, like a frightened bird. His skin was warm and velvety. I was too fragile to hold him properly, but when I felt his little body pressed against mine, something changed inside me. He doesn't have a name yet, Sandro commented, sitting on the edge of the bed. I wanted to wait for you to wake up so we could choose one together. I looked at that angelic face and knew without a shadow of a doubt what the perfect name would be. Raphael, I whispered, remembering the light, the return by a thread, the death and resurrection. Raphael, he repeated, testing the sound of the name. It's beautiful. Does it mean anything? It's the name of an angel, I explained. The angel of healing because he came as a balm to our lives. I hesitated, undecided whether to tell him about the light, about having seen Tonino. Sandro might think it was the effects of the medication, the anesthesia, but he just squeezed my hand and said, because it was an angel who brought you two back to me. As if he understood that we were talking about him, little Raphael opened his eyes for the first time. They were not the vague, unfocused eyes of a newborn. They were eyes that seemed to see, to understand, eyes that already had a light of their own. Look, Sandro, I whispered, moved. He's looking at us. Sandro leaned over and kissed our son on the forehead. Welcome to the world, Raphael, he whispered. You gave us a fright, my son, but it was worth every second of fear. You are our miracle. And so the three of us remained, an unlikely family united against all odds. A 61-year-old woman who had come back from the dead, a 34-year-old man who had never imagined being a father like that, and a premature baby with surprising strength for his size. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Each day was a step forward, a surprise for the doctors. You are recovering at an impressive speed, said Nurse Lourdes, who took care of me at night. If you keep it up, you will soon be home with your son. Raphael was kept in the incubator as a precaution, but he did not need any special treatment. He grew quickly, nursed greedily, and cried vigorously when he wanted something. This boy is in a hurry to live, commented pediatrician Dr. Carolina during an examination. When Raphael and I were finally discharged, Sandro came to pick us up in a car decorated with blue balloons. He looked like a different man from the one who had taken me to the hospital on that desperate night. He was clean-shaven, wearing new clothes and a radiant smile. On the way back to Bonfim do Sul, I looked up at the sky through the car window and whispered a silent thanks for being alive, for having my son in my arms, for having a man like Sandro by my side, and for knowing, without a doubt, that life is much more enigmatic and wonderful than we imagine. I looked up at the sky and understood. God had decided for me. He had important plans for me in this world, and the most important thing was to raise that boy who slept peacefully in my arms, unaware that his mere existence was already the greatest miracle that city had ever witnessed. Returning to Bonfim do Sul with Raphael in my arms was like entering a different narrative. The city that had turned its back on me now turned to me, but with different eyes. It was as if everyone knew about the miracle. I was almost dead in the hospital. The premature baby survived. The doctors had no explanation. The news spread like wildfire. We named our son Raphael, after an angel, Raphael, the angel of healing, and there could not have been a more appropriate name because that boy had healed not only my life, but the lives of many people in that city. The first week at home, I was still weak, recovering from surgery. Raphael was small and needed to breastfeed every 3 hours. I had no milk due to my age and the surgery, so we used bottles. Sandro would sleep with me at dawn, warming up the milk, changing diapers, helping me get out of bed. He didn't want to hire help. He said he wanted to take care of us both personally. I remember the first visit, Zepha, my friend, with a still warm carrot cake and a little bag of baby clothes that she had made herself. She came in hesitantly, as if she didn't know what to say. But when she saw Raphael sleeping in the crib that Sandro had built, her eyes filled with tears. "Maristela, he's the most beautiful baby I've ever seen in my life," she said, covering her mouth with her hand. And he really was. Raphael, even premature, was stunning. Thick black hair, big dark eyes like Sandro's, and clear, velvety skin. His little hands were so small that they fit entirely around my finger. After Zefa, Dona Jurema came from the store, with packages of diapers and powdered milk. "It's a gift," she said without looking at me directly, as if she felt embarrassed. I knew she had been one of the ones who had spoken the worst about me when they found out about the pregnancy, but now she was there with gifts and an unspoken apology. The days passed and more people showed up at our door. They brought food, clothes, diapers, or simply came to meet Raphael. They were curious, of course, and wanted to see with their own eyes the miracle baby born to a 61-year-old woman. But there was no longer that look of judgment. It was a look of astonishment, of admiration, as if only then had they understood that life has mysteries that are beyond our control. The most surprising change was with my daughters, Solange and Patricia, who treated me like a crazy person when they found out about the pregnancy. Now they called every day wanting to know how their little brother was doing. Patricia was the first to visit, about 15 days after we returned from the hospital. She arrived alone with a teddy bear bigger than Raphael, and her eyes full of doubts. When I placed the baby in her arms, I saw something change in her face. It was as if all the criticism, all the judgment had melted away in that moment. She held her little brother carefully, and when he opened his eyes and seemed to smile at her, Patricia cried like a child. "Mom, forgive me," she said, sobbing. "I said so much nonsense, I judged so much, but he is perfect." And there, at that moment, I knew I had my daughter back. Solange took longer to arrive, only arriving when Raphael was almost 2 months old. She brought her husband and 2 children, my grandchildren, whom I barely knew. It was the first time she had set foot in my house in almost 3 years. She arrived seriously, formally, as if she were on a business visit. When she saw Raphael, she stood at the door looking at the baby. He had already gained a lot of weight, was already holding his head steady, and was already recognizing voices. He looked at her with those big, curious eyes and made a little noise as if he were saying, "Hello." That was when the ice broke. Solange approached, took him in her arms, and hugged him as if she were hugging the whole world. "He has your eyes, Mom," she said softly. And it was true. Despite having the same color as Sandro's eyes, his gaze, his expression, were the same as mine, as if he had brought out the best in each of us. Meanwhile, Raphael grew strong and healthy, to the amazement of the doctors who were monitoring him. Each consultation was the same. "This boy has an impressive vitality." Dr. Mauricio, who delivered the baby, said it was hard to believe that the baby had been born so prematurely and in such critical circumstances. The biggest surprise of all came when Raphael was about 5 months old. We were at home on a Sunday afternoon when there was a knock on the door. It was Father Anselmo, the same one who had spoken of modern aberrations in his sermon. He was alone holding a package wrapped in blue paper. "Dona Maristela," he said awkwardly, I came to meet the boy and bring him a gift. I invited him in, even though my heart ached when I remembered how he had treated me. Sandro was in the backyard fixing the chicken coop and came into the room with a serious expression when he saw the priest, but I signaled for him to calm down. Father Anselmo sat on the edge of the sofa holding the package in his lap. I went to get Raphael, who had just woken up from his afternoon nap. He was already laughing. He was already recognizing people. He was already stretching out his little arms asking to be held. When the priest saw that child, something happened. It was as if he had seen a ghost. He was so pale. He looked at Raphael, then at me, then at Sandro, and back at Raphael. Can I hold him?" he asked in a voice that didn't seem to be his. I placed the baby in his arms carefully. Raphael looked at the priest curiously, smiled a little, and stretched out his little hand until he touched his face. And Father Anselmo did something I never imagined I would see. He cried. He cried like a child, without shame, in front of all of us. "Dona Maristela, Mr. Sandro," he said between sobs. "I came to ask for forgiveness for what I said, for what I thought. I judged what I didn't understand, and God showed me how wrong I was." He said he had gone to visit a priest friend in Divinopolis, and there he heard about the miracle that had happened at Santa Clara Hospital. A 61-year-old woman and a premature baby who should not have survived. When he found out it was me, he felt as if God had slapped him in the face. "This boy is a blessing," he said, looking at Raphael with reverence, "and I would like to baptize him if you allow it. It would be an honor." We accepted. Raphael's baptism was the biggest event Bonfim du Sul had ever seen. The church was packed, with people even outside. The same people who had previously turned their backs on me now wanted to be godparents, wanted to touch the baby, wanted to be part of that story. And do you know what Father Anselmo said during the ceremony? That Raphael had come to teach a lesson to the entire city, that we should not judge what we do not understand, that God writes straight with crooked lines, and that true love has no age. When he poured holy water on my son's head, the baptismal font overflowed with water. To this day, the people of Bonfim du Sul tell us that they saw the water shine in a strange way when it touched Raphael's head, and that the entire church was filled with a flowery scent that no one knew where it came from. And time went by. Raphael grew up strong and intelligent, learned to walk early. At 10 months old, he was already taking his first steps holding Sandro's hand, and spoke his first words before most children, "Daddy" and "Mommy," calling us. At 1-year-old, he was already speaking short sentences to everyone's amazement. Today he is 11 years old and is the joy of our lives. He runs around the churchyard as if he had wings on his feet, climbs trees like a little monkey, raises birds in shoeboxes, and has a special way with animals. So even the most shy ones approach him. At school, he is the best student in the class, especially in math. But what draws the most attention to Raphael is his gaze. There is a sparkle in his eyes that seems to carry the sun within him. And the people who laughed at me, who turned their backs on me, who said so many bad things, now call me Dona Maristela with respect. The mothers ask Raphael to play with their children. They say he is a good influence. The old men in the square want him to sit down to listen to stories. They say he listens like no one else. Even Father Anselmo, who is now our friend, says that Raphael has a special gift for comforting people. The other day, Nosa, the same neighbor who spat on the ground when I passed by, came to ask if Raphael could go to her house to teach her grandson how to make a little wooden house for the dog. He went, of course, and came back saying that Dona Nosa makes the best cheese bread he has ever eaten in his life. That is how things have changed. The boy who was supposed to be a source of shame has become a source of pride, not only for me and Sandro, but for the entire city. The same people who called me crazy now call me mother with respect in their voices. And when I walk down the street with Raphael, there is always someone who stops to ask for the blessing for the boy. It's like I always say, God knows what he does, and sometimes he uses the most unexpected ways to bring the greatest blessings. Life is not like in the movies, where a miracle turns everything into a bed of roses. Even with all the changes in the way the city saw me, even with Raphael bringing so much joy, we still face many challenges. Raising a child after 60 is not easy, I won't lie. There were days when my body couldn't handle the pace of that boy. When he started to crawl, my God, it was like he had a motor in his little legs. I would turn my back for a second, and he would already be under the table or trying to climb the bookshelf. Sandro continued working hard. He got a steady job at the Novo Horizonte construction company, which was building new buildings near the bus station. He would leave home before sunrise and come back with his back bent from exhaustion, but he never, not once, complained. I would get home, and no matter how exhausted I was, I still had the energy to play ball with Raphael in the yard, to read him bedtime stories, to help me with the housework. Sandro is 45 years old now. His hair has started to get a few gray strands at his temples, which gives him a different charm. His hands are still calloused from hard work, but they are the gentlest hands I have ever felt in my life. He still looks at me the same way he did in those early days when he was fixing my roof as if I were the most precious thing in the world. Of course, not everything is rosy. We argue like any other couple. There are days when he comes home late from work and I already have a sour face. There are days when I complain about the mess he leaves in the garage, with his tools scattered around. There are days when he gets irritated because I spoil Raphael too much or because I insist on doing things the doctor told me not to do. But do you know what I learned? That fighting doesn't kill true love, that after the storm we always find a way to get back to what matters. Sandro takes care of me as if I were a crystal, but a tough crystal, as he himself says. Never a crystal without an opinion. He jokes when I'm stubborn about something. Our routine is simple but full of little joys. I wake up early before the other two and make coffee. I like that moment alone in the kitchen, listening to the birds outside and smelling the fresh coffee. I make a cornmeal cake or cheese bread when I have time. Then I wake Sandro up, who always asks for just 5 more minutes before getting up with his hair all messed up. Raphael wakes up alone. It's like he has an alarm clock inside him. At 7 o'clock sharp, he's already in the kitchen in his pajamas, his hair spiky, asking for chocolate milk. He drinks coffee, telling me about the dreams he had, talking about his plans for the day, asking 1,000 questions that sometimes I don't even know how to answer. Then Sandro goes to work, Raphael goes to school, and I take care of the house. I can't do everything I used to do. Kneeling down to clean under the furniture is a thing of the past, but I still manage the basics. I take care of the vegetable garden, which now even has strawberries that Raphael planted. I feed the chickens, collect the eggs, and make lunch with what we harvest from the garden. When Raphael comes home from school, the house is full of life again. He brings friends to play in the backyard, makes up stories with his dolls, draws, and does experiments that he sees on the internet. This boy is so curious. He wants to know how everything works, where it comes from, where it goes. Sandro arrives in the late afternoon, takes a long shower to get rid of his tiredness, and has dinner with us. This is my favorite time of the day. The 3 of us at the table, talking about our day, laughing at the silly things Raphael says, making plans for the weekend. Afterwards, Sandro helps Raphael with his homework, especially math, which he is good at. Our house is still simple, with the blue walls already a little faded and the backyard full of fruit trees. We have chickens, a stray dog named Fumasa, which Raphael found on the street, and a black cat that goes by Sombra. The smell of cornmeal cake is almost always in the air, mixed with the scent of the dahlias I planted in front of the house. On the weekends we have visitors. My daughters come more often now. Solange brings her grandchildren, who love to play with their youngest uncle. Patricia, who never wanted children, is the doting aunt who brings gifts and takes Raphael on outings. It's funny how his birth brought the whole family together again. My friend Zepha still comes over for coffee almost every day, bringing him tapioca cookies that she knows Raphael loves. She's already old, with difficulty walking, but she hasn't lost her joy or her love of conversation. "It's this boy who keeps me alive," she always says, pointing to Raphael. Life isn't perfect, of course. I have days when my joints hurt, days when tiredness seems like it's going to knock me down. There are times when I find myself worried about the future. After all, I'm 72 years old. How much longer will I have to see my son grow up? Will I ever get to meet the grandchildren that Raphael will give me one day? But then I look out the window and see Sandro teaching Raphael how to fix the bike. I see his father's big, calloused hands holding his son's still small hands, showing him how to hold the tool. I hear their laughter, so similar, echoing through the yard. And I think, even if I'm not here to see it all, I know my son will be fine. He has the best father I could have chosen. Solange once asked me if I don't regret it, if raising a son at this age isn't too much of a sacrifice. I answered that sacrifice is living without love, without purpose. It's waking up in the morning and not having a reason to get out of bed. It's looking to the future and only seeing loneliness. That's what sacrifice is. Because Raphael, even on the hard days, even when he tests my patience like only a child can do, is the greatest joy I've ever experienced. Every discovery he makes is as if it were mine too. Every achievement, from his first step to his first grade at school, fills my heart with a pride that can't be contained in my chest. And Sandro is the companion I didn't even know I could still find in this life. We love each other as only those who have survived chaos can love, with gratitude, with patience, with the certainty that each day together is a gift that cannot be wasted on nonsense. People still look at us on the street, still make comments, but now it's different. Look there, Dona Maristela's family. Family, that little word that I thought I would never hear associated with my name again. One day, not long ago, I was sitting on the porch watching Raphael play with Fumasa, when Sandro sat down next to me and took my hand. We stayed there without saying anything, just watching our son run around the yard, feeling the warmth of the afternoon sun, listening to the sound of the cicadas. "What are you thinking about?" he asked after a while. "How life takes turns," I replied. "How I thought I had already lived everything I had to live, that all I could do was wait for time to pass. And then you showed up at the fair with that ladder on your back." He smiled and squeezed my hand. "I thank God every day for that leaky roof. This is what we have. A simple house, with chickens in the backyard, the smell of cornmeal cake in the air, and the sound of Raphael inventing stories with his dolls. We have a love that has defied the entire city, a son that doctors say is a miracle, and the certainty that it is never, ever too late to be happy. And that, my daughter, that is wealth. That is the true miracle, you know? There are days when sitting in the old rocking chair on the porch, I contemplate the night sky of Bonfim du Sul and wonder about the mysteries of existence. At the age of 61, believing that I had lived everything that life could offer me, God gifted me with an unimaginable love and a son. This is not a cheap romance story or a fairy tale. It is my life, radically transformed when I believed that all I had left was the relentless waiting of time. A world that was once monochromatic exploded in vibrant colors, just when I was told that I should settle for black and white. Many people give in to unhappiness, imprisoned by the belief that age is a limit, that dreams should be relegated to dusty drawers, that the time for happiness is over. But I ask myself, who established an age for joy? Who decreed the expiration date for starting over? Who decided that, after the age of 60, life is reduced to an existential appendix, an antechamber to eternity? At 61, while most women my age were knitting and visiting their grandchildren on Sundays, I was pregnant, rediscovering love, fighting against an entire city to defend my right to happiness. It wasn't easy, as you can imagine. There were tears, fear, contempt, moments when I thought I would actually die. But looking back, I wouldn't change a single thing. Every tear, every insult, every door slammed in my face has led me to this. A 72-year-old woman with a heart overflowing with an intense, vibrant happiness that wakes me up every morning with the desire to see the sun rise, to hear my son call me mom, to feel Sandro's hug when he comes home from work. Yesterday, Raphael, full of enthusiasm, read the essay he wrote for school about his hero. He chose me, his mother. He wrote that I am a heroine for having given him life before I even met him, for facing the world every day with a smile, even with the pains in my body and the weight of age. When I finished reading, he looked at me with those eyes that seemed to reflect all the stars in the sky and said, "Mom, I am the luckiest boy in the world because God chose you for me." I was speechless. I just hugged my son and cried. At that moment, I understood the purpose of everything I had lived, why I survived on the brink of death in that operating room, why Tonino came into my life to bring me back. We spend our whole lives thinking that we know what is best for us. We make plans, we follow paths. We get frustrated when things don't turn out as we imagined. But sometimes life presents us with a surprise so great, so unexpected that we are astonished, amazed by divine wisdom. Even with all the difficulties, the pain, and the prejudice I faced, today I look into anyone's eyes and say, it was worth it, every second. The laughter of my son playing in the yard, the hug from Sandro when he arrived home tired from the market, the house full of my daughters and grandchildren on Sundays, that is priceless. I saw an entire city transform because of our love, people who judged me begging for forgiveness with tears in their eyes. The transformation occurred not only in my life, but in the lives of so many others. Father Anselmo, the same one who criticized me in the sermon, is today one of the greatest defenders of ageless love, using our story as an example in his Sunday homilies. God writes straight with crooked lines, using the most unexpected paths to teach us about true love. If someone tells you that you are too old, that there is no more time to be happy, that your dreams are nonsense, tell them my story. Tell them that you know a woman who at 61 gained true love and a son, a miracle. Tell them that this woman, instead of hiding in shame in the face of the city's comments, lifted her head and moved on. Tell them that when she had to choose between her own life and that of her son, she didn't hesitate for a second. And also tell them that, for some mystery that even doctors can't explain, she survived to tell this story. Today, I am proud to be called a mother. The same people who called me crazy, reckless, and shameful now look at me with respect, not because I changed to please them, but because I followed my heart, even when everyone said I was wrong. My friend Zifa always says that Raphael is the miracle child, and I agree. But the miracle wasn't just his birth, strong and healthy, after everything that happened. It wasn't just my survival from a surgery that doctors considered fatal. The miracle was the transformation, love overcoming prejudice, life blossoming where only darkness was expected. I've lived long enough to know that life offers no guarantees. I don't know how much longer I'll have on this earth, if I'll see Raphael graduate, get married, have children. But I know that every day I wake up and see his smile, hear his laugh, feel his embrace is a gift beyond measure. If you doubt everything I've told you, if you think it's a made-up, exaggerated, or romanticized story, I understand. There are things in this life that are hard to believe, blessings so great that they seem like fantasy. But I invite you, come to my house for a coffee, sit on my porch, try my cornmeal cake, talk to Sandro, get to know Raphael. See for yourself how love can transform everything. Then you'll tell me if my son is a figment of my imagination or a gift from heaven. Because in the end, what I've learned from all this is that it's never ever too late to start over, to love, to be happy. Life can surprise us at the last second when we least expect it, in the most unexpected way. And when that happens, when the surprise knocks on your door, don't be afraid. Open your arms and welcome, even if everyone says you're crazy, even if the whole city laughs at you. Because who knows, this might be the beginning of your own miracle. My name is Sandro. I'm 45 years old and I'm sitting here on a bench in the central square of Bonfim do Sul, enjoying my lunch break. I brought the lunchbox that Maristela prepared. Rice, beans, steak with onions, and a farofa that only she knows how to make. In the past, I would eat lunch right at the construction site, sitting on a bag of cement or a piece of wood. Today, I prefer to come here, breathe a little, watch the city go by. It's funny how everything changes. I'm now looking at the bandstand in the square where, 10 years ago, people would gather to badmouth me and Maristela. I remember walking by here and the conversations would suddenly stop. The eyes would follow me. The whispers would start as soon as I turned my back. Today, people greet me, ask about Raphael, invite me to their children's birthday parties. When I arrived in Bonfim do Sul, I didn't even have a place to fall dead, just a ladder on my back and the faith that my life would change. I came with the clothes on my back and my old toolbox, sleeping in a small room in the back of Mr. Juvenal's store, paying with maintenance services. I never imagined that I would find love, much less that this love would become a family. Whoever looked at me, a ragged 34-year-old laborer, could have imagined that I would fall in love with a 61-year-old woman, that we would have a child together, that I would put down roots in this city where I had only arrived as a passing through. Life has these inexplicable things. I see people running after love on apps, looking for people of the same age, style, manner, and I found my love when I was just looking for a roof to fix. When Maristela told me she was pregnant, I trembled. I cried. I felt a fear I had never experienced before. It wasn't just for myself, but for the baby that was on the way, for a woman who could be my mother, but who needed me like no one else had ever needed me. I had to grow up overnight. From a laborer who lived off odd jobs, I became the man of the house. I got a steady job, saved every penny, and worked overtime until I couldn't take it anymore. I renovated Maristela's house little by little on the weekends and built Raphael's crib out of leftover wood from a construction site. There was a time when I worked in 3 different places, leaving at 5 in the morning and returning at 10 at night, arriving home so tired that I could barely take a shower before collapsing in bed. But I swore to myself that I would take care of her and the baby with all my life, and I kept that promise. The night in the hospital, to this day I can't talk much about it without my voice breaking. I thought I was going to lose them both. I saw Maristela so pale, so weak, intubated in the ICU, and Raphael, so small, barely fitting in my hand, in an incubator full of wires and beeping machines. I spent the whole night pacing the hospital, praying, promising, begging. When they both survived, I knew I had been given a second chance. Our family was born twice, once when we found out we were pregnant, and once when they both came home from the hospital. Raphael is 11 now. He ran past here a little while ago with his school friends on his way to buy popsicles at the after-school store. He saw me, ran over to give me a hug, and ran off again. He is at this stage, half child, half preteen, almost as tall as I am, growing like a tree. He is intelligent, gets good grades, won a medal in the math Olympiad last year, plays soccer better than many older boys, and has a talent for music too. But what I am most proud of is his character. A respectful, kind boy who is not ashamed to help around the house, who treats his mother like a queen. Today, every time Raphael calls me Dad, I understand what it means to have a purpose. When I leave the construction site tired and sweaty with my body aching and think that I'm going home, where he and Maristela are waiting for me, I gain the strength to move forward. Maristela is 72 years old now. She's still strong and stubborn, running the house with an iron fist, insisting on cooking for me every day, even when I say she doesn't need it. A man who works hard needs real food, she says. Her hair is all white now. Her wrinkles have gotten worse, but that look is still the same that charmed me on the first day. The people in the city got used to us. At first they were just curious and mean. Today they treat us like any other family. They even use us as an example when they want to talk about overcoming obstacles and strength. If someone says that I stayed with Maristela out of self-interest, I just smile. People thought I was after her money, especially her who only had a small pension and the simple house that the deceased left behind. They thought I was going to pull a fast one and disappear. 11 years later, here I am. I changed jobs, not cities. I built a family, I didn't destroy it, I cared for it, I didn't abandon it. What we build is not measured in money, but in courage, perseverance, in taking life's beatings and staying on our feet. Soon I'll have to go back to the construction site. We're building the city's new health center, right there at the entrance. I'm in charge now. I no longer carry bags of cement on my back. I have 5 men working under my supervision. Some of them are the same ones who laughed at me when they found out Maristela was pregnant. Today, they call me Mr. Sandro and ask for advice when they have problems at home. That's life in a small town. People are quick to judge, but they also know how to admit when they're wrong. Prejudice turns to respect when you prove, day after day, year after year, that what you feel is true. Raphael will be 12 next month. We're going to have a little party in the backyard. Nothing too big, just a barbecue with friends from school, family, my daughters, and Maristela's daughters, who are coming from São Paulo with their grandchildren, who are older than Raphael. It's become a party that the city looks forward to every year. Do you know what's funny? The same people who said that I was with Maristela because of our age now say that we're a good match, as if time had adjusted things. I've become more mature, more centered, and Maristela is still the same strong woman she's always been. Love, my friends. True love doesn't choose age. It only chooses those who have the guts to feel, those who have the courage to face the looks, the comments, the meanness, those who have the strength to build something solid in a world where everything seems disposable. Now I have to get back to work. The construction crew should be back from lunch. I have to supervise the concreting of the 2nd floor today, but first I'm going to stop by Raphael's school just to say hello. He's always happy when I show up unexpectedly, even though I'm already at that age where he starts to think his parents are square. This is my life now. Work, family, responsibility. Very different from that wanderer who arrived here with a ladder on his back and no clear destination. But you know what? I wouldn't trade this life for anything because in it I finally found what I spent my whole life searching for. A place to call my own. A place where I'm loved, not for what I have or what I look like, but for who I am. If you are enjoying our stories, subscribe to the channel, comment, and leave your like. Don't miss this story that is currently on the screen. I'm sure you will like it. See you in the next video.